Keir Starmer just had the most disastrous interview of his political career. When faced with a simple question, he stuttered and couldn't get a word out. With such poor speaking skills, how much longer can Starmer hold on? Let's watch the footage of Starmer turning himself into a laughingstock on live TV right now. But before we begin, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates on UK politics.
Where we put expensive plasters on problems.
Yeah.
We do it with
No,
the
I
NHS
understand
as
that,
well,
and I don't
but
want
we
to
never
interrupt
fix
you,
the
but I'm aware
fundamentals.
you're very busy. So how far will £6 billion take us?
Well, 8.3 billion is the money we want to invest in clean British power. But that is to trigger, this is very important, private investment to come up alongside it.
Constantly dodging tough questions, Starmer left viewers feeling frustrated. The more he tried to escape the pressure, the deeper he sank into an awkward situation, as the interviewer remained resolute and refused to back down, escalating the tension to its peak.
Hundreds of millions of pounds, and now we know it isn't even going to work.
Just on that, Mr. Starmer, I remember, and I think I've interviewed you before on this show, and other members of your party, MPs, and the line from Labour about migration was safe and legal routes. That's what we...
Keir Starmer's recent interview was nothing short of a heavy disaster, creating a vivid example of the mistakes politicians must avoid. For those watching the interview, this memorable moment will go down in history as a clear lesson, a warning about poor preparation and unconvincing responses when faced with sharp questions. Initially, the interview seemed like a typical political exchange, but in an instant, it quickly spiraled into an uncontrollable series of challenges where Starmer constantly lost his way and appeared flustered. The interviewer was firm, relentlessly throwing out direct, no-nonsense questions, drilling down on sensitive issues like pension support policies and immigration control, topics that Starmer himself seemed not fully in control of. Faced with a series of tough questions, Starmer continually displayed his discomfort, completely lacking the calm composure one would expect from a political leader. When asked to explain the £22 billion budget deficit, rather than providing a concrete answer, he resorted to quoting the Office for Budget Responsibility (OBR) report as a way to sidestep the issue, further highlighting his helplessness in confronting the direct question. This was one of the key moments when he was pressed about his plan to address the financial difficulties that pensioners face, particularly when asked directly whether he would apologise to people like Chrissy, who were struggling due to his own economic policies. This should have been an easy question, one where a simple apology could have eased public sentiment. However, Starmer chose to sidestep, stretching his response with vague explanations about the economic deficit. This made his lack of confidence painfully obvious, as though he were digging his own grave. The more he tried to justify himself, the deeper he sank into the mire. Instead of acknowledging responsibility or providing a decisive answer, Starmer continued to fumble, making the audience feel like they were witnessing a clumsy performance, where he was no different from an actor trying to juggle while blindfolded. Continuing with his ambiguous explanations, he referred to the tough decisions the current government is making to stabilise the economy, while emphasising that pension increases would offset the economic losses. Starmer even hinted that people should apologise for the massive £22 billion debt left by the previous government, as if to shift the responsibility onto others. These excuses were not only unconvincing, but also reflected the weakness of his arguments, as he continuously avoided answering the real questions. The interview grew even more awkward when he was questioned about immigration policy, a hotly debated topic. The interviewer directly asked about the goal to reduce legal immigration numbers, questioning whether it should be brought down to below 100,000 people per year. Starmer responded with a vague remark, "I won't give a specific number, but it needs to come down." This ambiguous response left both the interviewer and the audience disappointed, as he attempted to pivot to peripheral topics like vocational training and visa provisions. However, this approach only worsened the situation, exposing the disarray and lack of direction in his political thinking. As the interview continued, Starmer's discomfort became more apparent. He stumbled over his words, searching for phrases, making the audience even more frustrated. Politicians often avoid tough questions, but the way Starmer clumsily handled the issues at hand created a stark contrast. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, not knowing how to react, turning the performance into one of the most embarrassing moments ever. It didn't take long for the public to react. They rushed to social media to mock and criticise Starmer's incompetence. Memes and mock images spread rapidly, all carrying the same message: the embarrassment and disappointment over a leader unable to cope with pressure. Followers not only questioned his policies, but also doubted his leadership abilities. His lack of clarity and decisiveness in his answers made many wonder how much longer Starmer could maintain his position at the head of the Labour Party. When it came to economic development policies, Starmer failed to convince the audience as well. While he fiercely criticised the previous government for its 14-year period of stagnation, when it came time to propose concrete solutions, all he had were vague promises, offering no clear direction. His statements were nothing but empty rhetoric, lacking any actionable plans to improve the economy. This interview not only exposed weaknesses in Starmer's communication skills, but also laid bare the fragility of his policies. When asked about important issues like immigration control and economic development, he only provided half-hearted answers, failing to persuade his listeners. His hesitance in committing to specific figures, especially regarding the reduction of legal immigration, raised doubts about his ability to address the nation's key problems. Instead of presenting a clear plan, he offered vague promises like, "It needs to come down," without delving into any details, leaving voters unable to place their trust in him. This lack of decisiveness and ambiguity eroded public confidence in him, at a time when the UK desperately needs strong and steadfast leadership amidst the political chaos. Keir Starmer's controversial interview has become a hot topic, not only in traditional media but also spreading rapidly on social media platforms such as Twitter and TikTok. The questions surrounding his responsibility in financial matters and the Labour Party's policies have led to intense criticism of Starmer. A notable aspect of the interview was how he repeatedly dodged sensitive questions, failing to provide satisfactory answers, ranging from economic issues to his plans for early prisoner release, raising concerns about his leadership ability. In the exchange, when asked about the responsibility towards pensioners who might lose money due to economic policies, Starmer failed to show the necessary empathy. Instead of offering an apology or expressing understanding for the concerns of retirees, a crucial voting bloc for the Labour Party, he merely repeated the talking points about the economic challenges the party faces. This was a strategic mistake, as pensioners form a core part of Labour's voter base, who expect attention and empathy from their leaders. Starmer's evasion on this issue created a sense of detachment and lack of compassion, causing him to lose credibility not only with the interviewer, but also with the audience watching. His failure to provide a direct answer and the lack of initiative in handling the situation indicated that Starmer was not ready to confront the pressing issues that voters care about, thus undermining his standing. The interview worsened when the topic of Labour's early release programme was brought up. This controversial policy led to nearly 40 prisoners, including some dangerous criminals, being mistakenly released. When asked about this blunder, Starmer again failed to provide a convincing answer. He attempted to avoid taking responsibility and blame previous governments, rather than acknowledging the mistake and committing to making amends. His handling of the matter led the public to lose trust in his management abilities. Social media reactions exploded, with harsh criticism pouring in. Many people argued that he was unprepared and lacked the decisiveness needed to tackle tough questions. This only heightened concerns about his leadership and accountability in addressing serious issues.